So I think it's safe to say that female-led action films are just not popular enough, as not as popular as people want to say it is. The action film is historically a male-centric genre. In the 80s, you had Chuck Norris, Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers. The list goes on and on. Jean Claude Van Damme, Jeff Speakman. Uh, I know Speakman was in the late 80s, early 90s, but still it was carryover of what made it the genre worked in the 80s. You know, being a male centric genre, it only makes sense to cater to the demographic that is shelling out the big money, which is men. And then now we're in a time where DEI and ESG and all these other brainwashing tools of the high establishment are permeating movies, and they're shoehorning women into roles that. Okay, look, before I say my point, I understand that action movies are fiction. I understand that they do a lot of crazy, impossible stuff. Some of which could make your head scratch or laugh because of how absurd some of these stunts can be or some of these scenarios. I get it. But there's still a little bit of plausibility in seeing someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger clobber a couple of guys at a time, or Sylvester Stallone taking on Ivan Drago in a boxing ring. There is still some plausibility in action movies, but when you consistently cast twigs and have them go up against 300-pound men and take them on like nothing, you throw plausibility out the window. And on top of that, it becomes obvious that, oh, you're doing it to further a feminist agenda, that independent women don't need no man, and men are closet rapists. So we're gonna overpower the man. We're gonna overpower the patriarchy with our stick figure women, and because feminism, hail to the sisterhood. Well, people are tired of that. They're tired of that message. They're tired of militant feminism overtaking entertainment, and both genders, not just men, but men and women, are noping out of it. Because what happened with Barbie last year, Barbie made over $1.4 billion worldwide. And that's a whole video unto itself. But it made $1.4 billion. Why? Because Barbie has historically been a female-centric brand. And the producers of the movie knew the proper aesthetics to bring in that demographic. How? Well, you put in a lot of pink. Pink is predominantly a feminine color. A lot less reliance on CGI and more practical sets, so that was pleasant to the human eye. And it definitely pushed a feminist anti-male message. And you say, well, how come that movie then made over $1 billion if it was so sexist and anti-male? Well, because a lot of the red pillars foolishly put that movie on the map, and a lot of red pillars went to see that movie because of the revelation that movie confirmed what many red pillars have been saying, which is men built the world, men are the ones that make the world move, and women live in fantasy land. And for women to get ahead in positions in life, they have to manipulate their way, whether it's through sex, their bodies, through manipulating a man's emotion. That movie revealed a lot of truths, but the problem with that movie was, in revealing those truths, it didn't deliver consequences to the women who were clearly perpetuating evil. Instead, it rewarded the manipulation, and it downgraded the truth of men building societies and functioning societies being patriarchal at its core. But a lot of red pillars saw that movie and put that out there, and it got other people curious. And by people, I mean men. It got them curious about that movie. So they're like, you know what? Let's check it out, see what it's all about. But it was genius marketing. We'll call that movie genius marketing, because a lot of men wouldn't have even looked its way had it not been for the revelation that, oh, this movie confirmed a lot of the red pill revelations about men and women and the dichotomy of men and women in relationships, as well as the roles of genders in our society. But women ate that movie up because it was very feminine at its core. Furiosa is a masculine movie, masculine at its core, with a masculine IP. Mad Max is a masculine IP. And then you promote this movie as a Mad Max saga, even though it has nothing to do with Mad Max, only because it features a character that was introduced in the last Mad Max movie. Mad Max wasn't played by Mel Gibson. And yes, Tom Hardy's a good actor and has done a lot of good roles, but you had him pretty much cook out to Charlize Theron's Furiosa. You couldn't even give him his own poster. You had to shoehorn Furiosa, who was at the front of him in that poster. So Mad Max cucks out to Furiosa. And now with Furiosa's own movie, she's front and center and she ain't sharing that spotlight with any man because, again, independent women need no man. And I found this essay by a lady named Dr. Martha M. Lorzan. It's a Man's Celluloid World from 2023 about the portrayals of female characters in the top grossing US films. And this first two paragraphs alone says it all. She says, Barbie dominated the theatrical box office in 2023, and with it, much of our cultural conversation about women in film. Outside of Barbie Land, girls confronted the trials of adolescence. Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. Young women found the strength to leave abusive relationships. Priscilla. And, well, that was the Elvis movie. And foursomes of women 16 older bonded over football. Tom Brady, books, and travel. 80s. The thing, okay, so the thing with those, so women love traveling. If you ever go to a typical woman who's in her late 30s or younger, and she's single, you're going to see a lot of photos where she's on location somewhere in some exotic place somewhere. Women on Instagram, they love to take photos of themselves traveling. That's their thing. They talk more about traveling than they do about being married. And when they have a man, you'll see those photos of them holding the man's hand while they're leading the man to some clear water or some waterfall or something like that. You know, traveling speaks to the woman, to the modern woman. But continuing on with the paragraph. But for all the talk about Barbie's success, the overall percentage of women in speaking roles contracted from 37% in 2022 to 35% in 2023, and the number of females in major roles remained the same at 38%. The percentage of films with female protagonists declined from 33% in 2022 to 28% in 2023. And I will venture to guess that a lot of the decline has to do with the shoehorning of women in prominent roles in action movies. Men and women don't want that. Barbie's success proved that women will gravitate towards a film that is feminine. Women will still pull out top bucks for a rom-com before they put down $10 or $20 these days, that is, on a female-led action movie, because women don't want to be masculine. At their core, women generally don't want to be masculine. They want to be feminine. They want to be submissive to a man. They want to embrace their femininity. They want strength in their femininity. They don't want strength in trying to pretend to be a man. That doesn't speak to women at their core. Men, on the other hand, don't want to be lectured. They don't want to be told, "Oh, you guys are toxic. Your patriarchy, even though it's brought us billions of dollars in box office sales historically the last few decades, we don't want it." And this is why a film like Prey, which features another twig somehow managing to overpower a predator from outer space, the same kind of creature that Arnold Schwarzenegger, with all his strength, couldn't take on one-on-one. The producers of this movie wouldn't take a chance on putting it out in the theaters because they knew it wouldn't make a lot of money, because the plausibility factor is just it's down through the basement. Nobody would see this kind of movie and think, "Oh, this twig could take on a creature from space 3 times its size, a creature that's obviously battled all kinds of monsters, and yet couldn't take on a twig of a lady because DEI won't allow it." So clearly, the movie was put on streaming because of that. Because hey, we can make our money selling it to Hulu and recoup our costs, as opposed to taking a chance and losing money in the theaters and the box office. But if female-led action movies were instant box office hits, why do you think it took them too long, the MCU did, to release their Black Widow movie? Let's be honest. You have a lot of guys that are like, "Oh, we've been waiting for that movie for a long time. We want a Black Widow solo movie." But the reality of it is, there isn't as much demand for a Black Widow solo movie as there was for a Spider-Man or Iron Man or even a Captain America. Those characters will always make money. The Iron Man movies continually made more money with each movie. But when you talk about action films or genre films that have action-oriented themes, you may get that one or two action movies with a female-led protagonist that will do well, but those are not the norm. Those are the exceptions. In general, men go to watch action films because men see themselves in the protagonist kicking the ass of the bad guys. They talk about representation, how important representation is. These people who propagate the DEI, ESG, feminist bullshit. If that's all the case, supposing that's true and representation does matter, then you have to assume that if you're going to have an action movie where the hero is a female beating the crap out of men twice her size, you're going to have to assume that men are going to feel underrepresented and they're just going to nope out of opening their wallets to you. It's not hard to figure this out. It's become the thing now where women are just shown to upstage men. And we saw this with Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon also. Women who have no business going toe-to-toe with men twice their size, but somehow they're able to just do it effortlessly or as if they have any kind of equal footing. You can go on YouTube and find lots of videos of men and women who spar. You'll find a woman that has a better physique than a man, but most often those men will take them down because it's not always about strength. It's really more about body structure. Men's body structure are fit and created specifically for combat and physically strenuous activities. Men's bone structure just were made for that. And if you really want to drive the point home, look at the transgenders entering women's sports, breaking all kinds of records because men's bodies just not even at their peak will still dominate women in their own sports. A man's body was built for physical activity and strenuous action. So Furiosa catered to the wrong audience and bombed as a result of it. It's not a secret. It's not a shock. Just accept it for what it is. Now, the question is, are the studios still invested in making money? Because if they are, then they should understand that your bread and butter is with the male demographic. That is who your audience is. And to pretend otherwise it's just setting yourself up for fail. But what do I know? I'm just some rando who buys movie tickets, goes to see movies. And the other argument too about, it was streaming that killed Furiosa. It was streaming that hurt Furiosa's box office. Well, again, we had a year where Godzilla x Kong made over 500 million worldwide. 500 million, and it was the highest grossing MonsterVerse movie in the franchise. Think about it. In 2014, Godzilla came out and it made its money. And it made about, I think, 400 million, whatever, worldwide. And then Skull Island made more money the following year. And that was before the lockdowns. That was before the pandemic. That was before the other stuff. And I'm going, well, if streaming is hurting box offices this year, why wasn't it a thing in 2014? And streaming was still prevalent in 2014. People were still streaming in 2014. Netflix, Hulu was still strong because it was independent. There was a lot of streaming options in 2014. So with that being the case, Godzilla x Kong still made more money than any of the movies in the MonsterVerse. Because why? It was entertaining. Why? Because it appealed to the demographic it was targeting. And interestingly enough, the protagonist in that movie was a female. But the producers knew, who were the bread and butter of the movie? Well, the monsters, Godzilla and Kong. So it was very Godzilla. Well, it was more Kong-centric than Godzilla. But still, the monsters were front and center in that movie. And you sold it on the monsters. And hell, it made bang. It made a lot of money. It's not difficult. It's really about who your target audience is, understanding your target audience, and catering to that target audience. A female-led action movie doesn't cater to really anybody. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the message is received or if they're going to continue pushing the DEI ESG nonsense. But let me hear what you guys think. Please leave your thoughts in the comments, and we'll talk soon. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys later.